Hello and a very good morning and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. This is India Votes with me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin with the headlines. Campaigning for the sixth phase of polls comes to an end. Political heavyweights raise the poll pitch in the last hours of campaigning. Election Commission bans BJP leader Girdhari Singh from campaigning in Bihar and Jharkhand. A third FIR also filed against him. Modi snubs leaders making controversial remarks, asks them to refrain from such comments to help the BJP. And several heavyweights in Uttar Pradesh file nomination papers. Gulam Singh files his second from Azamgarh. First up on India Votes this morning, campaigning for the sixth phase of Lok Sabha elections came to an end on Tuesday. Leaders made one last push to seek votes in areas that go to polls in this phase. Voters in 117 constituencies spread across 12 states will face polls in this phase on Thursday. Here's a look at the final hours of campaigning on Tuesday.
Tuesday being the last day of campaigning for the crucial sixth phase of Lok Sabha polls, multiple rallies were held across the country in constituencies that go to polls on 24th of April. Prominent leaders from different parties hit the road, appealing voters to exercise their franchise in their favour. While Congress President Sonia Gandhi addressed her last rally of the phase in Raiganj constituency of West Bengal, Party Vice President Rahul Gandhi held back-to-back rallies in Uttar Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Campaigning for her mother, Priyanka Gandhi too hit the campaign trail in Rai Bareli.
माता जी को बहुत दिया है कि हम आपके साथ आपके क्षेत्र के लिए काम कर पाएं, आपके साथ कंधे से कंधा मिला पाएं, यही हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी बात है.
The high-profile constituency, which is a Congress stronghold, will go to polls in the seventh phase on 30th of April. In a first, Priyanka Gandhi defended her husband Robert Vadra against allegations of corruption.
बहुत बातें होती हैं, कठोर बातें, मेरे परिवार को जलील करना, मेरे पति के बारे में बहुत बातें कही जाती हैं, मुझे दुख होता है.
BJP's PM nominee Narendra Modi campaigned for party candidate in Dhule, Maharashtra. Shifting focus to the next phase, he also held multiple rallies in Andhra Pradesh, which goes to polls on 30th April in the seventh phase.
क्या आप तेलंगाना का भविष्य ऐसे हाथों में देना चाहते हो जो आने वाले 5 साल में तेलंगाना को अपने पैरों पर खड़ा कर दे.
Aam Aadmi Party chief Arvind Kejriwal wrapped up his campaign in Amethi, the seat which is set to witness a high-profile contest between Congress second-in-command Rahul Gandhi, actor-turned-politician BJP's candidate Smriti Irani and Aam Aadmi Party's Kumar Vishwas. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And to talk about this and much more over the next 15 minutes or so, we have with us in our studio, of course, senior journalist Priyaranjan Dash. Welcome to the show and a very good morning to you.
Thank you.
Well, of course, campaigning has now come to an end for the sixth phase of polling. 117 seats in the fray this time around. Of course, there's nothing more that the political parties can do now. It's all left up to the voter on Thursday to come out and vote.
Yes, this is the second largest polling round, the sixth round, and spread across 12 states. So naturally, it's a very important round of all the rounds that are planned for these general elections. The campaigning for this round has ended, and the voters will have to decide tomorrow.
Thus far, of course, we've seen a very high voter turnout compared to 2009. Can we expect the same tomorrow as well? And what has been the Election Commission's role in this particular election to ensure that there has been high voter turnout?
Election Commission has done a good job, I would say. In terms of the voters list to begin with, particularly with the special care that the Election Commission has taken to revise the voter list and including the last minute attempt it has made to give a chance to voters to enroll themselves. Now, second thing of course is this time in the elections, like it happened in the Delhi assembly elections some time ago, the election commission has itself been issuing the voter slip. Now, in parts of the country this process has not been very effective because it's been attempted for the first time, but it's been good that election commission has been giving the voter slip, and in places that it's working, naturally it is encouraging voters to come out and vote. That's been one reason why there has been a good voters turnout.
Okay, of course, that's one of the main reasons why there has been a major or a good voter turnout this time around. We'll talk about that and much more, but let's take a look at another aspect of it. More than 2,000 candidates are vying for a seat when India votes, of course, for 117 Lok Sabha constituencies on Thursday. The sixth phase of polling is the second biggest phase in these 9-phase elections. The fate of several heavyweights will be decided by voters in this phase. Here's a look at some of the key seats going to polls tomorrow.
In yet another crucial day of voting, 117 seats spread across 12 states will be held on Thursday. States where polls will take place are Assam, Bihar, Jharkhand, Jammu and Kashmir, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. The only union territory on the list is Puducherry. Among all the states, Tamil Nadu will see maximum number of seats going to polls. All the 39 seats in the state will vote on April 24th. Heavyweights among the total 845 candidates in fray are former Union Minister A. Raja, Dayanidhi Maran, T.R. Balu of DMK, A. Ramadas of PMK, BJP State President P. Radhakrishnan. Finance Minister P. Chidambaram Son Karti is contesting from Shivangana constituency, which was earlier represented by his father. Maharashtra will see 19 of its Lok Sabha seats go to polls in the third phase of polling in the state. Over 3.18 crore voters will exercise their franchise to determine the fate of 338 candidates. Some of the key candidates in this phase include Union Minister for Telecom Milind Devra from Mumbai South and AICC General Secretary Gurudas Kamath from Mumbai Northwest, NCP's Chhagan Bhujbal from Nasik and Sunil Tatkare from Raigad. Uttar Pradesh is also set to witness its third phase of polling on April 24th with 12 constituencies in the fray. Among the fate of 188 candidates that will be decided in this phase, some of the key leaders in fray are External Affairs Minister Salman Khurshid from Farrukhabad, Samajwadi Party Chief Mulayam Singh Yadav from Manpuri, his son Akhlesh's wife Dimple Yadav from Kannauj, BJP's Hema Malini from Mathura. Madhya Pradesh will see its final round of balloting on Thursday with 10 Lok Sabha constituencies going to polls. As many as 118 candidates are in the fray in the final phase. In Vidisha, BJP's sitting MP Sushma Swaraj is seeking re-election. State Congress Chief Arun Yadav is in fray from the Khandwa seat. BJP's Sumitra Mahajan is vying for a seat from Indore. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Priyaranjan, we've taken a look at some of the key contests, of course, for the elections tomorrow. There have been several key contests already that have taken place over the last 5 phases of polling. What do you believe is the main contest of tomorrow?
Well, the main contest is not very different from what has been in the previous rounds of polling. And you know, as the polling rounds are getting closer to the last round, the contest is heating up clearly, and this is since this time there is, in terms of the voting hours also, it's 11 hours, which is a record from 7 in the morning till 6 in the evening. The interest of voters, you know, is clearly increasing as the contest gets more interesting.
And what do you believe is attributing to this? Do you believe that social media and some of the advertisements, some of the campaigns that have been run by several people, is that also contributing to ensure that the voter is more enthused this time around?
The voter is, you see, this is a very crucial election, 2014. Unlike some of the earlier ones, so the voters' interest is naturally high, and the factors that we just discussed has contributed to higher voter turnout in the previous rounds, and is expected to be this round also. The interest is expected to be sustained, and in fact, as I was saying, that as we approach the last round of polling, interest is increasing, and everything is contributing to it. Means naturally there is a very vibrant debate, and that is going on. The electioneering itself, all parties and candidates are resorting to all kinds of methods to reach out to voters, and although these are summer elections and the weather is not very kind in terms of the candidates to be able to reach out, but they are leaving no stone unturned. Clearly, this has to the extent that the parties and candidates are able to reach to the voters, their interest is being sustained, and you see a greater interest.
Well, indeed, we see a greater interest, and we also see that parties are doing everything that they possibly can, like Priyaranjan Dash just mentioned, to ensure that they reach out to all the candidates, to reach out to the electorate, of course. And the Election Commission, meanwhile, has banned Girdhari Singh from campaigning in Bihar and Jharkhand. The BJP leader has been banned for his Pakistan remarks. Now, that was his way of reaching out to the voters as well. The Election Commission has asked for action after it examined the video of footage of controversial statements of VHP leader Praveen Togadia and BJP leader Girdhari Singh. Meanwhile, a third FIR was registered against Singh despite his reply to the Patna district administration's notice within the stipulated time. If you take a look at this aspect of it also, Priyaranjan, we've seen several of the BJP leaders, we've also seen a Samajwadi Party leader come out and make a few, inflammatory speeches. That also has been an integral part of the campaigning this time around.
Well, unfortunately, these elections which started with every party claiming that development is the agenda. As we come to the penultimate or towards the end of these elections, clearly there are signs of desperation, and some of the politicians are resorting to methods and to speech that are aimed at polarizing voters and creating division, unfortunately. But the Election Commission is alert, and like it has happened in the case of Mr. Girdhari Singh, it is taking action. But the parties must realize that the voter is today is looking from parties answers to questions about their livelihood, their employment, the things like health, education, economic progress, social progress, rather than the divisive kind of issues that some politicians and are trying to raise. So, it's unfortunate, but these tendencies, to the extent can be curbed by the Election Commission, it will definitely create the atmosphere for a healthier democracy.
Indeed. Do you believe that the Election Commission should take on a proactive role rather than a reactive role, identify certain people who can possibly, make inflammatory speeches and ban them prior to them to actually going and doing the damage?
Well, you can't be doing that. You can't be predicting who is going to say what and take preemptive action. There is a model code of conduct. There are electoral laws which are very clear. There is the general or the normal law of the land that must be respected, and the candidates and political parties are aware of that. And then there is also, you know, political parties and candidates must show a certain degree of commitment and respect to the voters. The voters are really not interested in political parties and candidates calling each other names or trying to create division in society.
Indeed, of course, it was not just Girdhari Singh who was in trouble. Of course, VHP leader Praveen Togadia is also under the scanner over his controversial remarks in Gujarat. An FIR has been filed against him for trying to incite communal passions. Now, the Election Commission had asked the district administration to take action against Togadia over his hate speech, and also directed to submit the action taken report as soon as possible. However, Praveen Togadia had sent legal notices to media houses claiming that the report was false and malified.
मोदी जी कभी कहते हैं इंटरव्यू में कि मैं हार जाऊं लेकिन मैं जात की राजनीति नहीं करूंगा, कहते हैं ना, और फिर उधर कहते हैं मैं तो पिछड़ा हूं, बिहार में जाके कहते हैं मैं पिछड़ा हूं।
प्रवीण तोगड़िया और गिरिराज सिंह, इस तरह के लोगों को तो बिल्कुल मैं समझता हूं कि इनको पर्सोना नॉन ग्रेटा बना देना चाहिए। इनको किसी भी इलाके में घुसने की इजाजत नहीं देनी चाहिए और पब्लिक मीटिंग एड्रेस करने से बिल्कुल वंचित करना चाहिए।
लीगल नोटिस इश्यू की है, मेरी ओर से एडवोकेट ने भेजी है और दिल्ली गुजरात सहित देश के सभी मीडिया को जानकारी के लिए वह लीगल नोटिस हम ऑलरेडी भेजना शुरू किया है।
Priyaranjan, we've seen that this particular speech of Praveen Togadia has drawn a lot of flack, but there are several people who believe that this particular speech was delivered to sabotage Narendra Modi's campaign, because Praveen Togadia was someone who was always opposed to Narendra Modi. So do you see some kind of a vested interest in this?
Well, the political, although Mr. Togadia belongs to Vishwa Hindu Parishad, which is supposed to be part of the Sangh Parivar to which BJP too belongs, the political difference between Mr. Togadia and Modi is been long standing and quite out in the open. What was the motivation for Mr. Togadia to be talking like he did? That's difficult to guess, whether he was trying to sabotage Mr. Modi's image makeover that he's been attempting. But in the past, Mr. Togadia has been making similar kind of statements. As Mr. Modi himself, Mr. Modi also has, you know, although he could be trying image makeover because he is today aspiring to be the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi is also known to have made statements which were not the best that you would like to see from a politician of his stature.
Indeed.
So you know, it's very difficult to say what exactly was Mr. Togadia's. Although Mr. Modi, by tweeting his reaction to apparently to Mr. Togadia's statement, among other statements, because he hasn't named any particular statement, where he has called about irresponsible statements and trying to suggest that these statements would derail his campaign on the development plank. Now, seems to suggest that Mr. Togadia and others who belong to the Sangh Parivar or part of it are clearly not contributing to Mr. Modi's attempt at an image makeover.
Well, indeed, of course, we'll have to see whether that image makeover works or not. Just 4 more phases of polling left to go, and after that, it's the big result day on May 16. Thank you so much, Priyaranjan Dash, for joining us here in our studio and adding perspectives to several of those topics. Of course, on that note, we'll slip into a very quick break, but we'll be right back in just a bit. To stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television and this is India Votes. The Election Commission has taken strong exception to a series of controversial speeches made by politicians during rallies for Lok Sabha polls. Chief Election Commissioner VS Sampath, said that the panel is keeping a close watch on inflammatory and hate speeches during campaigns. Here's a report.
Halfway on the 9-phase Lok Sabha elections and the political rhetoric has turned ugly. Leaders raised the poll pitch by making controversial remarks that were reported to the poll panel. BJP's Amit Shah and SP's Azam Khan were banned by the Election Commission from campaigning in UP, while the ban on Shah was later revoked. EC gag on Azam Khan continues. The poll panel said it is taking strict measures to curb repeat of model code violation.
Particularly, machinery will keep a very close watch on inflammatory and hate speeches. They need not wait for instructions from Delhi or from Ahmedabad. District magistrates and the SPs must take action on their own whenever they come across any violation of law or model code.
Flow of money during elections is another challenge that the poll panel has to get tackled. The CEC said his officers would keep a vigilant eye on any attempt to bribe voters.
The Commission emphasized on all officers they should keep a close watch on any attempt to bribe the voters. Bribing of the voters is an offence. Even receipt of bribe is an offence, which is punishable with imprisonment up to 1 year.
An umbrella body of Muslim organizations has urged the Supreme Court to take suo motu notice of the recent cases of alleged hate speeches. It has alleged polarization is gaining momentum through such controversial speech or remarks during the elections. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, several bigwigs filed their nomination papers on Tuesday. Samajwadi Party Chief Mulayam Singh Yadav filed his nomination papers on Tuesday from Azamgarh in Uttar Pradesh. Mulayam is contesting from 2 seats, Mainpuri and Azamgarh, in the Lok Sabha elections. Now, he is in the fray for the 6th phase of polls on Thursday, when voting will be held in Mainpuri, his original seat of choice. Former Minister RPN Singh also filed his papers from Kushinagar in Uttar Pradesh. He is also seeking a re-election. BJP's Yogi Adityanath filed his papers from Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh. Another BJP heavyweight, Kalraj Mishra, also filed papers from Deoria.
आम जनमानस में भारतीय जनता पार्टी ही विद्यमान है और मुझे लगता है कि निश्चित रूप से भारतीय जनता पार्टी यहाँ से विजयी होगी।
पूर्वी उत्तर प्रदेश समेत गोरखपुर के विकास के लिए जो योजनाएं हम लोगों ने प्रारंभ की हैं उनको पूरा करना और भारतीय जनता पार्टी नेतृत्व की सरकार बनने पर नई सरकार के गठन होने के साथ ही नई योजनाएं गोरखपुर के लिए लाना।
सचमुच में झूठे सपनों दिखाकर वोट मांगने के लिए मैं आज अपना नामांकन नहीं किया है। विकास मुद्दा है, रहेगा।
Well, a day after ruling out joining the NDA, NCP chief Sharad Pawar voiced confidence about the UPA returning to power after the Lok Sabha elections. Pawar said that the UPA will hold together even in defeat and Congress will revive after the setback. The NCP chief also said that he does not see the Congress hunt for a new leader like Priyanka Gandhi if Vice President Rahul Gandhi fails to deliver in the Lok Sabha elections. On Monday, the NCP chief had ruled out the possibility of joining the NDA. He said that his party would prefer to sit in the opposition with the Congress than join the NDA. However, he said that doors are still open for a possible third front too. Union Minister Gulam Nabi Azad has cancelled his campaign rally in a town in Jammu and Kashmir where a sarpanch was killed last night. The sarpanch, a member of the Congress, was killed when militants barged into his home and opened fire. This is the second sarpanch to be killed in 3 days. Militants and separatist groups have given a call to boycott polling in the state, which has 6 parliamentary seats. The incident comes within days of a sarpanch affiliated to the PDP was shot dead. The region goes to polls in the 6th phase of voting on Thursday. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Votes. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.